The lights inside the orbital station of the Celestial Concorde were too bright. They hummed with a low, annoying sound that only Ambassador Vex seemed to hear. He walked down the long hallway, his purple robes dragging on the clean floor. He did not care about the floor. He did not care about the station rules. He was a Pyrian, a member of the greatest species in the galaxy. Why should he follow the rules of a station made by lesser beings? Behind him walked two guards. They wore heavy gold armor and held tall spears that hummed with blue energy. Their faces were hidden behind visors. They did not speak. They did not need to speak. Their presence was enough to make the other aliens on the station step aside. A small creature with 4 arms hurried out of Vex's way, pressing itself against the wall. Vex did not even look at it. To him, the creature was just dust. Today was an important day, or so the council said. Vex had to meet with the humans. The Earth delegation. Vex almost laughed when he thought about it. Humans were new to the galaxy. They were ugly, soft creatures with no scales, no fur, and no special powers. They lived on a small, blue planet far away. They had no magic. They could not move things with their minds like the Pyrians. They could not see in the dark like the cracks. They were just meat. Humans are arrogant, Vex thought to himself. They think they can fly spaceships, so they think they are equal to us. They are like children playing with weapons they do not understand. He reached the door of the meeting room. It was a large metal door with the symbol of the Concorde on it. Vex did not wait for the door to open by itself. He lifted his hand, and his mind pushed against the lock. With a loud crack, the metal bent, and the door slid open violently. The guards walked in first, their heavy boots making a loud sound on the metal floor. Vex floated in after them. He did not walk, floating was a sign of high status among his people. It showed that he was above gravity, above the earth, above physical effort. Inside the room, the table was long and made of steel. Sitting at the other end was one man. He was Commander James Holden. He did not look like a warrior. He looked like an old grandfather. He had gray hair and a face that was lined with wrinkles. He wore a simple black uniform with a small flag on the shoulder. He was drinking coffee from a white ceramic cup. The steam curled up into the air. Vex floated to the other side of the table. He did not sit. Sitting was for equals. He hovered a few inches above the chair, looking down at the human. "Commander Holden," Vex said. His voice was deep and echoed slightly in the room. "I am Ambassador Vex of the Pyrian Empire." Holden put his coffee cup down. He looked at Vex with tired eyes. He did not look scared. He did not look angry. He just looked bored. "Good morning, Ambassador," Holden said. His voice was calm. "Please, sit. We have much to talk about." "I will not sit," Vex said coldly. "I am here to deliver a message, not to have a friendly chat." Holden shrugged. "Stand if you want. It makes no difference to me." Vex felt a flash of anger. This human was not respecting him. "Do you know who I am?" The Pyrian Empire has ruled this sector for 1,000 years. We are the peak of evolution. We have power that you cannot even dream of. We are telekinetic. We are superior. "I know who you are," Holden said calmly. "And I know why you are here. You want our terraforming tech." "It is not a want," Vex corrected him. "It is a requirement. The Pyrian Council has decided that your species is too reckless to possess such technology. You change environments too fast. You destroy the balance of nature. You are like a virus. Therefore, you will give us the designs for the atmospheric scrubbers. You will also stop all expansion into Pyrian space. If you do not, we will be forced to cleanse your worlds. Vex smiled. He enjoyed saying the word cleanse. It was a strong word. He expected Holden to tremble. He expected Holden to beg. He expected the human to stand up and shout in fear. Holden did none of those things. He looked at his watch. It was a simple, old-fashioned watch with a leather strap. Cleansing, Holden repeated slowly. That is a harsh word. It is necessary, Vex said. You are weak. You have no shields. You have no Chinook abilities. Your ships are slow. If we go to war, you will be destroyed in a week. We are doing you a favor by allowing you to survive as a servant species. Vex lifted his hand again. He wanted to show this human the power he was dealing with. He focused his mind on the heavy steel table between them. He imagined the metal bending, crushing. With a screeching sound, the middle of the table buckled. The steel twisted like it was wet clay. The metal groaned and snapped. The legs of the table gave way, and the whole thing collapsed to the floor. Vex lowered his hand. The dust from the crushed metal settled in the air. He looked at Holden. This is what happens to those who oppose us. We do not need bombs. We have the mind. Holden stood up slowly. He brushed some dust off his uniform. He looked down at the ruined table. Then he looked back at Vex. Impressive, Holden said. But his tone was not impressed. It was flat. You broke a table. Well done. Vex froze. This was not the reaction he wanted. Do you not understand? I can crush your skull with a thought. I can stop your heart without touching you. You are powerless. Holden took a deep breath. He folded his arms. He looked Vex right in the eye. Ambassador, Holden said. You call us arrogant. But you came here, floating above the ground, demanding technology from a species you call dust. You broke our table to prove a point. You think that because you can move a coffee cup with your mind, you are a god. I am a higher being, Vex said, his voice shaking with anger. No, Holden said, you are just a bully with a trick. Vex's eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to him like this. How dare you? Let me tell you about humanity, Holden interrupted him. We don't have telekinesis, Vex. We can't lift rocks with our minds. We can't talk to each other across stars without radios. So, what did we do? We studied physics. We studied chemistry. We studied engineering. We built machines that can lift mountains. We built ships that can cross the galaxy in months. We don't need magic to make us strong. We have brains, and we have stubbornness. You are primitives, Vex spat. Maybe, Holden said. But we are primitives who have been watching you. We know about your shields. We know about your Chinook amplifiers. We know that your entire military strategy relies on the idea that no one can get close to you because you can just push them away. Vex felt a sudden chill. The room felt very cold. The human's eyes were too calm. It was the look of a man who had already seen the end and accepted it. We received your ultimatum 3 hours ago, Holden said. Vex blinked. What? Your council sent the data packet to our government before you left your ship, Holden explained. They demanded our surrender. We analyzed the request. We had a meeting. And we made a decision. Vex waited. He expected the decision to be surrender. It had to be. There was no other choice. Holden looked at his watch again. We decided that we don't like ultimatums. We decided that we don't like being called dust. And we decided that the Pyrrhian Empire is a threat to the safety of our species. You refuse? Vex asked. He could not believe it. Oh, Ambassador, Holden said softly. We don't just refuse. Holden picked up his coffee cup from the floor where it had fallen. He took a sip, even though it was now cold. We didn't come here to negotiate, Holden said. I am not here to give you technology. I am here to accept your surrender. Vex laughed. It was a loud, harsh laugh. My surrender? You one old human in a room with 2 guards. You have no fleet outside. The Pyrrhian Grand Armada is in orbit around your colony world right now. They are preparing to fire. You have already lost. Holden shook his head. You really don't understand us. You look at a star and see fuel. We look at a star and see a gravity well. You look at a rock and see a weapon. We look at a rock and see a railgun projectile. Suddenly, the lights in the room flickered. Then, they went out completely. The hum of the ventilation system stopped. The station became silent, except for the breathing of the 2 guards and the floating of the ambassador. Power failure? Vex asked. He used his mind to create a small light, a glowing ball of Chinook energy that floated above his palm. It cast weird shadows on his face. Not a failure, Holden said. His voice came from the darkness. A shutdown. Holden stepped out of the shadows. His face was illuminated by the blue light of Vex's energy. What have you done? Vex demanded. Your fleet, Holden said. The Grand Armada, it's gone, Vex. Lies. Vex shouted. I would feel it if they died. My bond with my people is strong. You feel them because of your psychic network, Holden said. We just severed the connection. We launched blackout buoys around the system. They scramble Chinook waves. Right now, you are blind and deaf. And your fleet. Holden paused for effect. Your fleet is currently being hit by kinetic projectiles. We call them rods from God. Big, heavy tungsten poles. We drop them from high orbit. No shields, no matter how strong, can stop an object moving at that speed when it has that much mass. Your ships aren't exploding. They are just being punched through. Vex felt a panic rising in his chest. He tried to reach out with his mind to feel the fleet, to contact his captain. He felt nothing. Just static. It was like being dropped into a deep hole. He was alone. It is impossible, Vex whispered. Your ships, they are primitive. They are fast, Holden said. And we have a lot of them. We spent the last 10 years building them while you were busy looking in the mirror and telling yourself how great you are. Vex looked at the door. He ordered his guards to attack. Kill him. The 2 guards in gold armor raised their spears. They pointed them at Holden. Blue energy crackled at the tips. They lunged forward. Holden did not move. He didn't even pull a weapon. From the dark corners of the room, 4 large shapes stepped out. They were human soldiers, but they were not like Holden. They wore massive, bulky armor. It was black and covered in thick plates. Their faces were hidden by helmets with glowing red visors. They held rifles that looked too big for a normal person to carry. Thum. Thum. 2 quiet sounds. The Pyrrhian guards didn't even reach Holden. 2 darts, made of a special non-conductive ceramic, struck them in the necks. The guards fell to the floor instantly, paralyzed. Their psychic abilities were useless against a simple tranquilizer designed to block neural signals. Vex floated backward, hitting the wall. He looked at the armored soldiers, then back at Holden. "You came prepared to kill," Vex said, his voice trembling. "I came prepared to win," Holden corrected him. "You think because you have powers, you don't need to watch your back. That is your weakness. You are arrogant. And arrogance is a blindness." Vex slumped. His feet finally touched the ground. He could not float anymore, his fear was weighing him down. He realized, for the first time, that the humans were not the weaklings the stories said they were. They were terrifying. They were quiet, patient, and utterly ruthless. "What happens now?" Vex asked. Holden walked over to the door. He kicked the bent metal out of the way. "Now," Holden said, "we go back to my ship. And you are going to call your queen. You are going to tell her that the game is over. The galaxy has a new rule, Vex, and you don't make them." The commander walked out into the hallway. The armored soldiers grabbed Vex by the arms and dragged him along. He didn't fight. He looked at the back of the old man in the black suit. He realized that he had never been the predator in this room. He had always been the prey. And the day had just begun. The sky above the Pyrian home world, Aura Prime, was usually a beautiful shade of violet. It was filled with the soft glow of 3 suns and the silver rings that protected the planet. But today, the sky was burning. Great clouds of black smoke mixed with fire, turning the violet sky into a bruised shade of dark red. Down on the surface, in the grand capital city, the streets were chaos. The Pyrians were tall, slender, and proud. They wore robes made of silk that floated in the wind. They usually walked with their heads high, looking down on others. But now, they were running. They were tripping over their robes. They were screaming. The sound of sirens echoed off the tall glass buildings, piercing the air like a knife. Inside the central command bunker, deep underground, Overlord Kale stood before a massive screen. Kale was the Minister of Defense. He wore armor made of white and gold metal. He looked strong. He looked confident. But his hands were shaking as he pressed buttons on the console. "Report." Kale shouted at the officers working in the room. "Why are the shields failing? Where are the orbital defenses?" A young officer, his face pale with fear, looked up from his screen. "My lord, the reports are confused. We are detecting massive impacts on the outer moons. The fleet is not responding. Contact the Grand Admiral." Kale ordered. "Tell him to fire on the enemy immediately." "We cannot, my lord," the officer said, his voice shaking. "There is no answer from the flagship. It is gone." Kale stared at the screen. He saw a map of the solar system. Green dots represented his mighty fleet. Hundreds of ships. Slowly, one by one, the green dots were disappearing. They were not turning red, which meant they were damaged. They were just vanishing. "Gone?" Kale asked. "How can a fleet of 500 ships just vanish?" Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling of the bunker. The lights flickered and stabilized. Kale grabbed the edge of the console to keep his balance. "What was that?" he yelled. "Kinetic impact, sir." A technician screamed. "A projectile just hit the ocean. It was traveling at... I don't believe the numbers. It was moving at relativistic speeds." "Humans!" Kale spat the word out like it was poison. "How could they possibly reach us? They use primitive rockets." They do not have faster than light drives that efficient. They are not using energy weapons, sir, another officer said, looking at his data with terrified eyes. They are using mass. They are throwing rocks at us. Big rocks. From stealth platforms we cannot see. High above the planet, in the darkness of space, the truth was terrifying. Humanity had not come with lasers or plasma cannons. They had come with gravity and momentum. They had built massive railguns in secret, hidden behind asteroids. They fired tungsten rods the size of telephone poles. The rods had no engines, no heat signatures, and no energy shields. They were just metal. But when they hit something at 10% of the speed of light, the energy released was greater than a nuclear bomb. One of these rods struck the main shield generator of Aura Prime. The shield, a golden net of energy that protected the planet, shimmered for a second. Then, it simply snapped. The physics were too strong. The energy couldn't stop the mass. The shield generator exploded, creating a flash of light that was visible from the ground. On the surface, the explosions began to rain down. They did not target cities directly. They targeted military bases. They targeted spaceports. They targeted communication towers. The sound of the impacts was deafening. It was like the sky was falling. Sergeant David Park sat inside the dropship. It was a bulky, ugly gray machine. It was not smooth like the Pyrrhian ships. It looked like a brick with engines. The inside was cramped and smelled of oil and sweat. David checked his weapon. It was a heavy assault rifle, painted in dull gray colors. It used bullets, not lasers. "All right, listen up," David shouted over the roar of the engines. His voice was calm but loud. "We are hitting the ground in 30 seconds. The Pyrrhians are confused. They are scared. That is good. But do not get lazy. They still have teeth. They can still use their minds." The soldiers around him nodded. They wore heavy exoskeleton suits. These suits boosted their strength. They allowed a human to lift a car with one hand. They were powered by miniaturized nuclear batteries. The soldiers looked like giants. Their faces were hidden behind reflective visors. "Remember the training," David said. "Use your dampeners. Keep your neural shields active at maximum. They will try to push you. They will try to crush your helmets. If you feel a headache, hit the reset button on your wrist. Do not let them inside your head." 5 seconds. The pilot yelled. The ship shook violently. They were entering the atmosphere. The metal hull groaned under the heat. 3, 2, 1. Touchdown. The ramp at the back of the ship dropped open with a loud thud. Before the smoke cleared, David Park was running. "Go! Go! Go!" he yelled. The humans poured out of the ship like a flood of gray metal. They landed in a large plaza in front of a military barracks. The Pyrrhians were running out of the building, dressed in their ceremonial armor. They looked beautiful and elegant. They pointed their hands at the humans, ready to use their telekinetic powers. A tall Pyrrhian commander shouted, "Stop them!" He focused his mind, intending to pick up the lead human soldier and throw him against the wall. He visualized the force. He pushed with his brain. But nothing happened. The human soldier just kept running. The Pyrrhian commander blinked. He tried harder. He felt a resistance. It felt like hitting a rubber wall. The humans were wearing a new type of helmet. It was coated with a special material that disrupted psychic waves. It was called a neural dampener. It rendered the Pyrian's greatest weapon useless. The Pyrian looked at his hand, confused. Why isn't it working? Sergeant David Park didn't care about magic. He cared about tactics. He raised his rifle. Crack. A single bullet hit the Pyrian commander in the chest plate. The Pyrian armor was strong, designed to stop energy blasts, but it was thin. The heavy bullet punched right through, spinning the commander around and throwing him to the ground. Suppressing fire. David shouted. The human soldiers opened up. The sound of their rifles was a thunderous roar. Bullets shredded the stone pillars and the glass walls of the barracks. The Pyrians, who had never faced a ground war in centuries, panicked. They tried to use their spears, but the humans were too far away. The Pyrians tried to use telekinesis to throw debris, but the dampeners blocked their focus. They were being slaughtered by creatures they thought were too stupid to fight. Back in the bunker, Overlord Kale watched the footage from the plaza. He saw his soldiers dying. He saw the ugly gray machines advancing without mercy. They are animals. Kale screamed. Release the BioGuard. Release the giants. He pressed a red button. Deep underground, cages opened. Massive, genetically modified beasts roared. These were the ultimate soldiers of the Pyrian Empire. They stood 10 feet tall, had 4 arms, and thick armor skin. They were controlled by the strongest telepaths in the Empire. The beasts rushed to the surface, bursting out of the ground in the middle of the plaza. The humans stopped shooting for a moment. The beasts roared, a sound that shook the ground. The controller, a Pyrian elite, stood on a balcony and commanded the beasts to attack. Kill them! The controller shouted. The beasts charged. They ran incredibly fast. One beast swiped at a human soldier, knocking him 20 feet into a wall. The human suit cracked, but he stood back up. The suits were tough. Hold the line. David Park yelled. He pulled a heavy weapon from his back. It was a thermal lance. It looked like an oversized shotgun. Fire the lances. 10 soldiers aimed their lances at the charging beasts. Thum. A blast of superheated plasma shot out. It wasn't a laser, it was a blast of liquid fire. It hit the lead beast in the face. The beast didn't just fall, it melted. The armor skin, which was supposed to be invulnerable, turned to ash. The other beasts hesitated. They were smart enough to feel fear. The humans didn't hesitate. They kept firing. The ground became a killing field. Overlord Kale fell to his knees in the bunker. He watched the giants burning. He watched the dust winning. How, he whispered. How can they kill us so easily? An officer ran to him, holding a tablet. Sir, we intercepted a communication from the human leader. The one named Mark Kim. Play it, Kale said. A voice came over the speaker. It was cool and calculated. It was General Mark Kim. Pyrians, the voice said. We have studied you for a long time. We know your biology. We know your psychology. You are weak because you rely on a gift you did not earn. We are strong because we had to fight for everything we have. You fight with your minds. We fight with our hands and our steel. Today, you learn that steel is stronger than thought. The transmission cut off. Kale sat on the cold floor. He realized then that the humans hadn't just attacked them. They had disarmed them. The neural dampeners, the kinetic weapons, the thermal lances, it was all designed specifically to counter Pyrian strengths. It was a perfect counter. Sergeant David Park walked over the rubble of the plaza. He stepped over the body of a Pyrrhian commander. The Pyrrhian looked at him with eyes full of hatred. David looked down at him. "Don't worry," David said. "It will be over soon. We are not here to destroy your cities. We are here to break your pride. And that." He looked at the burning palace in the distance. "That is already broken." The sky continued to burn, but the gunfire was slowing down. The Pyrrhians were surrendering. They were dropping their weapons and floating to their knees. They finally understood. The galaxy's most arrogant faction had met a species that did not believe in superiority. A species that believed only in victory. The humans were here, and they were not leaving until the galaxy learned who was in charge. The royal bunker was buried 3 miles beneath the crust of Aura Prime. It was designed to survive a direct hit from an asteroid. The walls were made of reinforced lead and diamond glass. The air inside was cold and recycled, smelling of ozone and fear. Queen Seraphina sat on her throne, which was carved from a single piece of white crystal. She was the ruler of the Pyrrhian Empire, the most powerful being in the sector, or so she had believed. Now, she looked small. Her tall, slender body was hunched over. She watched the large screen on the wall, which showed the destruction of her city. Smoke was rising from the palace towers. Her glorious fleet was drifting in space as silent hulks of twisted metal. "This cannot be happening," she whispered. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of command. "It is a trick. It must be a trick." Ambassador Vex stood near the door. He was trembling. His robes were torn, and his face was covered in dust. He had fled the station the moment he realized the humans were not bluffing. He had taken an emergency escape pod and landed as close to the bunker as he could. He felt sick. His stomach twisted in knots. The arrogance he had felt only hours ago was gone, replaced by a cold, gripping terror. "It is not a trick, my queen," Vex said, his voice shaking. "I saw him. I saw Holden. He looked at me as if I were an insect. He knew. He knew about the Blackout Boys. He knew about the dampeners. They have been preparing for this day for a long time. The cracks will help us," the queen said, slamming her hand on the arm of the throne. "The Forlones will send their fleets. The galaxy will not stand for this aggression. The cracks have withdrawn to their borders," a technician said from the control panel. "They are watching. They are afraid to intervene. The Forlones are powering down their transmitters. We are alone, Your Majesty." Silence filled the room. The only sound was the low hum of the generator. Queen Seraphina looked at the heavy blast doors that guarded the bunker. They were 10 feet thick. They had never been breached in the 1,000-year history of the Empire. "They will not get in here," she said, trying to sound confident. "Let them burn the city. We have enough food and water for years. We will wait them out." Vex shook his head slowly. "You do not understand, my queen. They are not trying to starve us out." Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the bunker. It was a grinding, screeching sound, like a giant knife cutting through metal. It came from the door. Everyone in the room froze. "What is that noise?" Seraphina asked. The technician typed furiously on his keyboard. "Thermal signatures, ma'am. Extreme heat on the outer door. They are cutting through it." "Cutting?" Vex asked, his eyes wide. "But that door is shielded against plasma cutters." "They are not using plasma," the technician said, sweat dripping down his face. "They are using high-frequency industrial drills." And, they are using acid. Pure, molecular acid to melt the shielding. The noise grew louder. It was a painful, high-pitched whine that vibrated in their bones. The heavy blast door began to glow red in the center. The metal was turning white-hot. Slowly, it began to sag. Guards! Serafina screamed. To the door. Stop them! 10 royal guards stepped forward. They raised their staffs. They focused their minds, creating a barrier of Chinook energy in front of the door. It was a wall of invisible force. If anyone tried to come through, they would be crushed by the mental pressure. The door melted completely. It fell inward with a crash, leaving a smoking hole. Through the smoke, a figure walked. He did not run. He did not crouch. He walked with a steady, rhythmic pace. He was dressed in the same simple black uniform as Commander Holden, but he wore a heavy coat over it. It was James Holden. He didn't have a weapon in his hand. He didn't have a helmet. He just walked. The guards roared and pushed with their minds. The invisible wall of force slammed into Holden. It should have crushed him, it should have turned his bones to dust. But Holden kept walking. He stumbled slightly, as if walking against a strong wind, but he did not stop. He was wearing a small device on his belt. It hummed softly. It was a portable Chinook disruptor, scattering the guards' focus. The guards looked at each other in horror. They pushed harder, screaming with effort. One guard's nose started to bleed from the strain. But Holden just fixed his coat and walked past them. He ignored them completely. It was the ultimate insult. He did not even consider them a threat. He stopped in the center of the room. He looked at the Queen on her throne. He looked at Vex trembling in the corner. He nodded to the soldiers behind him. 6 humans in heavy black armor walked in, carrying large rifles. They stood guard near the smoking hole in the door. Queen Serafina, Holden said. His voice was calm. Thank you for seeing me. You have violated the sacred laws of war. Serafina shouted, standing up. You have attacked a civilian population. You are monsters. Monsters, Holden asked, raising an eyebrow. You were the ones who threatened to cleanse us. You were the ones who planned to turn Earth into a mining colony. We reacted. And we reacted efficiently. You destroyed our fleet, Vex said, stepping forward slightly. You killed millions. We destroyed your ability to make war, Holden corrected him. And if you check your casualty counts, you will see that we targeted military structures. The civilian casualties are minimal. We are not like you, Vex. We do not kill for pleasure. We kill to achieve an objective. Holden walked over to a nearby table. He brushed aside some maps and placed a small, flat tablet on it. He turned it so the Queen could see the screen. What is this? She demanded. It is a treaty, Holden said. The terms of your surrender. Serafina laughed. It was a desperate, manic sound. Surrender. We still have armies on the southern continent. We have reserves in the asteroid belt. Your armies on the southern continent surrendered 20 minutes ago, Holden said, checking his watch. They are laying down their weapons right now. The asteroid belt is currently being secured by General Kim's forces. You are alone, Your Majesty. The game is over. The Queen looked at the screen. She read the list of terms. It was short. 1. The Pyrrhian Empire will dissolve immediately. 2. All Pyrrhian worlds will become protectorates of the Earth Federation. 3. All Chinook weapons will be destroyed. For the royal family will stand trial for war crimes. Trial, Serafina gasped. I am royalty. I am chosen by the stars. Holden looked at her with pity. No, you are just a person. A person who ordered the deaths of millions of other species. A person who thought being born with a gift made you better than everyone else. Vex walked over to the tablet. He read it. He felt a strange sense of relief. The fear was gone, replaced by a hollow emptiness. The arrogance that had defined his life was gone too. He looked at Holden. What happens to us? Vex asked quietly. To the Pyrians. You will rebuild, Holden said. You will learn to farm without using slaves. You will learn to trade without using threats. And you will learn that the galaxy is big enough for everyone, even if they don't have telekinesis. Vex looked down at his hands. He remembered how he had crushed the table in the negotiation room. He remembered how he had felt so powerful. Now, looking at the human soldiers standing silently with their rifles, he realized what true power was. It wasn't about magic. It wasn't about lifting rocks. It was about discipline. It was about preparation. It was about the will to do what was necessary, no matter how hard it was. My queen, Vex said, turning to Serafina. Sign it. Serafina looked at him with rage. Traitor! You would bow to these apes. I am not bowing, Vex said softly. I am surviving. Look at them, Serafina. Really look at them. They beat us. They didn't use magic. They used their hands and their minds. They are better than us. Not because of what they are, but because of what they did. Holden watched the interplay. He was impressed. It wasn't often that a conqueror saw the truth so quickly. Sign it, Holden said, his voice hardening. Or I will give the order to level this bunker. I do not need you alive to make this work. But my orders were to offer peace first. The queen looked at the cold eyes of the soldiers. She looked at the hole in her door. She looked at Vex, who had finally dropped to his knees, his head bowed in defeat. She realized her empire was dust. It had crumbled in a single day because it was built on pride, not strength. With a shaking hand, she picked up a stylus. She pressed her thumb to the tablet to verify her DNA. Then she signed the digital document. Done, she whispered. The Empire is fallen. Holden picked up the tablet. He checked the signature. He nodded. Thank you, Your Majesty, Holden said. Now, please come with us. The galaxy is waiting to see a new world. He turned and walked back toward the hole in the door. The queen stood there for a moment, looking at her empty throne. Then she followed him. She walked past the guards who had failed to protect her. She walked into the smoke. The day had ended. The night was here, but for the first time in a long time, the galaxy was going to sleep without fearing the Pyrians. The humans were awake now, and they were watching over everything. The Galactic Council chamber was a massive room shaped like a perfect sphere. It sat in the neutral zone of space, far from any star. The walls were made of a special glass that could look out into the darkness of the universe. Usually, this room was filled with the sound of hundreds of different languages. Diplomats from every major species would shout, argue, and make deals. But today, the room was silent. The silence was heavy and scared everyone present. In the center of the room floated a large holographic table. It showed a map of the Pyrian sector. Until yesterday, that map had been covered in gold, showing the vast territory of the Pyrian Empire. Now, the gold was gone. It was replaced by gray. The color of humanity. Senator Rax sat in his delegation chair. He was a Krax. The Krax were a race of large, insect-like creatures with hard shells and many eyes. They were known for two things, having the biggest army in the galaxy and being very arrogant. They usually looked down on everyone, just like the Pyrians. But today, Senator Rax was very still. His antennae twitched nervously. He kept looking at the holographic map, then looking at the door. Next to him sat Observer Unit 7. It was a robot from a machine world. It did not have feelings, but it was recording everything with high precision. The fleet movements are confirmed, Observer Unit 7 said in a mechanical voice. The Pyrian home world is under Earth control. The surrounding systems have surrendered without a shot. How? Rax asked. His voice was low and sounded like grinding stones. The Pyrians had the strongest shields. They had the psychic abilities. How did the humans defeat them in less than a day? The data shows the use of kinetic weapons and neural jamming technology, the robot replied. The humans adapted. They found a weakness and exploited it with total commitment. Rax shivered. The Krax and the Pyrians were often rivals, but they were similar in many ways. They both believed they were the strongest. If the humans could break the Pyrians so easily, they could break the Krax too. Suddenly, the large main door at the top of the sphere opened. A ramp extended down into the center of the room. A single figure walked down. It was Director Thomas Lee. He was an older man with thin white hair and glasses. He wore a simple blue suit. He looked like a grandfather going for a walk in the park. He did not have an army with him. He did not have weapons. He just held a thin leather briefcase. The entire council watched him walk. Thomas Lee did not rush. He did not look left or right at the alien delegates. He just walked to the center podium, placed his briefcase on it, and opened it. He took out a single piece of paper. Members of the council, Thomas said. His voice was not loud, but the acoustics of the room carried it to every ear. I thank you for seeing me on such short notice. No one answered. Senator Rax leaned forward. Director Lee. Explain yourself. Is it true that you have destroyed the Pyrian government? Thomas adjusted his glasses. The Pyrian government has been dissolved. The military has been disarmed. The sector is now under the protection of the Earth Federation. Protection? Rax laughed, a dry clicking sound. Or occupation? You have conquered a sovereign species. This is an act of war against the galactic community. A murmur of agreement went through the room. Other aliens nodded. They were scared of the humans, but they were also angry. They wanted to stand together to stop this new threat. Thomas Lee looked over the top of his glasses at Rax. He did not look angry. He looked tired. Senator, Thomas said calmly. Please do not pretend you care about the Pyrians. Last year, the Krax Empire blocked a trade route that caused a famine on 3 Pyrian colony worlds. You did nothing. For 100 years, the Pyrians used their psychic powers to enslave smaller species. You did nothing. The council did nothing. So, please, spare me the outrage. We have rules. Rax shouted, slamming his claw on the table. We have laws. You cannot just invade a neighbor because you want to. We didn't invade because we wanted to, Thomas said. We intervened because we had to. Thomas picked up the paper. 3 months ago, the Pyrians sent us a message. They told us to surrender our technology or face cleansing. They called us dust. They told us we had no right to exist among the stars. We asked for peace. We asked for talks. They laughed at us. They were arrogant, Rax admitted. But that does not justify genocide. It is not genocide, Thomas said firmly. It is a correction. Look at history, Senator. The galaxy has been stagnant for 1,000 years. The strong bully the weak. The empires stay in power because no one can challenge them. But you forgot something. You forgot that chaos exists. You forgot that somewhere out there, a species might be rising that doesn't play by your rules. Thomas looked around the room at all the different species. The insectoids, the reptiles, the energy beings. He made eye contact with as many as he could. Humanity is not special, Thomas said. We are not stronger than you. We are not smarter than you. We live short lives. We get sick easily. We are fragile. But we have one thing you lost a long time ago. He paused for effect. The room was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. We have drive, Thomas continued. When we look at a problem, we don't accept it. We fight it. We spent the last 50 years watching you. We saw how the Pyrians used their powers to skip hard work. We saw how the cracks used their numbers to avoid innovation. We saw that you became lazy. You relied on what you were born with, not what you could build. So you built weapons to kill us, Rax said, his voice shaking with anger. We built tools to survive you, Thomas corrected him. We did not want this war. But we were prepared for it. Because in human history, we learned a hard lesson. If you want peace, you must be ready for war. You must be so strong that no one dares to fight you. Thomas put the paper back in his briefcase. The Pyrians are alive today because we allowed them to be. We could have turned their planet into glass. We could have burned their atmosphere. But we didn't. Because that is not who we are. We fought to stop them, not to erase them. Senator Rax sat back. He looked at the human director. For the first time, he realized that this human was not bragging. He was stating a fact. The humans didn't care about being the bullies. They just wanted to be left alone to grow. And if anyone tried to stop them, they would be crushed. What are your demands? Rax asked quietly. We have no demands, Thomas said. We only have a statement. The Pyrian Empire is finished. The territory is now a neutral zone. We will not expand further. We will not attack anyone else. But let this be clear to everyone in this room. Thomas leaned forward, resting his hands on the podium. Do not threaten Earth. Do not threaten our ships. Do not try to cleanse us. Because if you do, we will not send a fleet. We will not send an army. We will send the full force of our industrial power. We will turn our entire civilization into a war machine just to stop you. And unlike the Pyrians, we will not stop until we are sure you can never threaten us again. Thomas closed his briefcase. The galaxy is changing, ladies and gentlemen. The old ways of arrogance and dominance are over. We are here now. And we are not going away. He turned and walked back up the ramp. The door closed behind him. The silence in the chamber lasted for a long time. No one knew what to say. The balance of power had shifted completely in one afternoon. The scary thing wasn't that the humans had better guns. The scary thing was that they were willing to use them without hesitation, but only when pushed. They were the sleeping giant that had finally woken up. Senator Rax looked at the holographic map again. He saw the gray squares spreading through the Pyrian sector. Send a message to the Emperor, Rax told his aide. Tell him to pull back the border fleets. Tell him, do not provoke the humans. And the trade agreements, the aide asked. Sign them, Rax said. Sign whatever they want. The council began to whisper, but it was a different kind of whisper now. It was the whisper of respect born from fear. The galaxy had met the humans, and the galaxy would never be the same. The day the Pyrians fell was the day the universe learned that humanity should never be underestimated.